About 8 years ago, in the summer of 2013, I woke up one day and the entire world looked strange to me. I looked strange to me. I did not understand why. At the time, I was a devoted Christian. Didn't know what was happening. All I knew was what I could not do anymore, even though I didn't understand why. About 4 months after that, my mother-in-law was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and I was contemplating the possibility of her passing. And because of this sudden shift in my life, inexplicable shift, I started to question everything that I was raised to believe about Christianity. And I began to wonder, well, if we don't go to heaven and we don't go to hell, where do we go when we die? And at that time, someone recommended the book Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani. That was my first exposure to NDEs, near-death experiences. I hadn't heard of them prior to that. That kicked off an insatiable desire to listen to, watch, and read about near-death experiences. That obsession lasted for many months. Couldn't get enough of it. It seemed to be what I needed at the time. After a few months of deep diving into near-death experiences, I paused, and it suddenly occurred to me, all of these stories are very different, yet there appears to be some commonalities amongst all of them, like a set of common threads that was woven into all of them. And I grabbed a piece of paper and I wrote down what was the same, even though all of the stories were different. And then I looked at that list, and it became the basis for a greater understanding of what life on earth was really about and what happened after we died. And I let go of my obsession with NDEs. I still watch near-death experience videos, but it's more of a enjoyable experience of being reminded that life on earth, we take it way too seriously. One of the common threads in near-death experiences is waking up to the reality that this is the dream, and that everything that we thought we should be taking seriously here on earth was almost laughable once we were out of physical form. And I love being reminded of how laughable life on earth actually is. Not too long after that, I learned about law of attraction, and I became obsessed with the law of attraction principles, law of attraction activities, writing intentions, doing vision boards, visualizing, setting aside time to visualize. It was a profoundly beautiful vehicle that brought me into the awareness that I create my own reality. And then at a certain point in time, I sat down to visualize, and it felt like effort. It felt laborious to me. And I didn't understand why. But there was always this little voice inside of me that kept saying, well, if I am already Source, why do I need to perform activities in order to experience that which I desire? There was a greater understanding that what comes into our experience is a vibrational match to who we are being. And all of the activities around law of attraction faded once I moved into a greater awareness. So law of attraction sort of just settled into the backdrop of my life as just another law of this universe, and who I be is what I experience. It became that simple. Who I be is what I experience. Even my experience of desire has faded a lot. It's not that I don't experience desires arising. It's superseded by the awareness that there is nothing in this 3D human realm that I feel like I have to have or have to experience or have to accomplish. There's no person or thing I feel like I really need to have in my life in order for me to feel joyful, in order for me to feel okay. So the desires arise, but I really don't feel attached to any of them. When the desire arises, I simply allow them to be there. I don't need to chase them. They simply unfold in their own perfect timing. I know when to take action, when the action feels like it is calling me, versus me trying to come up with a set of actions to make something happen. The wanting around desires is what has dissipated. The desires are just there as a playful experience rather than it initiating the chase for something. Meditation was a big part of my journey as well. There was a point in time where I started to meditate 20 minutes a day, and then it turned into 30, and then it turned into 45, then it turned into an hour, and then it turned into 2 hours, and then it turned into 4 hours, and I found myself at a 10-day silent meditation retreat because I couldn't get enough meditation. And I realize now that what I sought in meditation was peace and stillness, away from the chatter of my human mind. It was my reprieve. And whenever I meditated, and it seemed like the longer I meditated, the better of a day that I had. My mind didn't get as busy the longer I meditated. And then I stumbled upon Michael Singer's book, The Untethered Soul, and suddenly realized that the stillness and the peace that I sought is who I innately was as source in human form. When I didn't listen to the chatter of my human mind, there I was, in profound levels of peace and also profound levels of stillness. Again, there was the arising of the contemplation. If I am already source, then I am already peaceful, and stillness is ever present. I didn't have to meditate in order to experience it. And I didn't make a decision to stop meditating. It just sort of faded out of my experience. About 2 or 3 times a year, meditation seems to call me, and I go. At the end of a recent live event, Conversations with Spirit live event, it called me, and I sat in stillness for about an hour. But I haven't meditated since. It happens about 2 or 3 times a year or so. But meditation as a daily practice or as a spiritual practice has, for the most part, faded out of my experience. Even the experience of channeling, having conversations with spirit, which began in my life about 19 years ago when I was a Christian. Back then I called it Conversations with God. And then as my awakening expanded, I called it Conversations with my Divine Team. And much more recently, I have trouble calling it anything. It used to be that I would sit on my bed with my iPhone and ask questions and receive answers, and that's what I called Conversations with my Divine Team. I would do it at the end of the day. I no longer do that. It has faded out of my experience. What has replaced it is this inner knowing and this inner awareness that I am that which I refer to as my divine team. In fact, that which I referred to as my divine team is what brought me into the awareness that I am precisely what I'm tapping into. That the greater part of me is non-physical, not physical. And this thing that I see in the mirror that I refer to as Allison is but a minuscule part of that which I truly am. And if the greater part of me is non-physical, then that is with me 24/7. And what has happened in my experience is just this ongoing experience of tapping in while I'm doing the laundry, while I'm having breakfast, while I'm sitting out on my deck, while I'm loading the dishwasher. There's just this ongoing tuning in whenever I feel like it. We often become attached to the vehicles that take us into a greater and more expanded awareness of who we truly are. Sometimes we get attached to trying to achieve mastery of the vehicle. And all of that's fine. Maybe there are human beings who are here to stick with a vehicle all their lives because it feels good and it's their joy, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. My experience is not a prescription. It's just my experience. If sticking with a vehicle for the rest of your life resonates for you, then that is what you're here to do. And more vehicles may appear in my experience. Maybe I'll revisit old vehicles that previously faded. I don't know. Yet for me, the experience has been that when a vehicle appears in my experience, it's a temporal pointer into the greater awareness of who I truly am, an eternal, indestructible being, source, incarnated in physical form. And when that vehicle has served its purpose, it seems to naturally dissipate and fade out of my experience. I'm sharing this today just in case there are those of you out there like me, where you feel like you can't stick with a certain thing and you watch others doing it forever. It just may not be the expression that you came here to be. Source is just having a different play of existence through you. And it's totally fine. And if your expression includes a lot of vehicles, that's also totally fine. My only invitation is to check into whether an attachment has been formed to a particular vehicle. Because at times, not always, but at times those attachments get in the way of us recognizing the truth of who we are and expanding into the awareness that that which we seek through vehicles is that which we are.